Hello, hola, bonjour. Tune in every Tuesday to the Dear God podcast.
¿Y qué pasó?
Nah, we talking like it's 1995. Let go of that Wi-Fi. Let's laugh and cry, but never say goodbye. Hey, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Dear God, Are We There Yet? You're getting another episode from me driving. I'm actually driving away to my pottery class, and I'm telling you, this is where I always think, and I'm always having ideas. But I kind of already knew what I wanted to talk about this week, because I wrote an article for Medium last week about this topic. So check it out. The links are on my Instagram, and also check out the article on Harness Magazine as well. Check those out, and I'll actually have these links onto my website at some point in time. But let me just get into my subject, because this is just a car ride podcast, and I'm really I've been doing a lot of reading, as far as, I've always talked about this subject to my friends and family and people that are close to me, or even encounters that I come across when they ask me a question, or they know somebody who knows somebody. This is for my primas, okay? This is for the ladies. I mean, men, you might want to listen to this too as well, because you might have a sister, a cousin, an aunt, a wife, a girlfriend. We're talking about hysterectomies today. Yes, and what we're talking about specifically is not the actual surgical procedure, any of that, because I am not a doctor. We're talking about the medical industry and their cash cow system when it comes to certain procedures that sometimes you're like, really? You don't even need that. And I get this a lot from my mamas. My mamas always tell me, and they give me stories, and that's why I love talking about this with them. About C-sections. So for your mamas out there who had C-sections that are unnecessary, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For the ones that kind of know where I'm going at with this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And in my article, I briefly talked a little bit about, hysterectomies and how it's not something new, but as I'm opening my mind more, and I'm like, hitting myself like, really, Alicia, you were so dumb. And I can't tell myself that I was dumb, because nobody is dumb. It's just the unknown. So just imagine all the things that we don't know. So for some of you that haven't read the Medium article, I basically proposed the question that, are hysterectomies the new medical cash cow? And I'm not going to say new, but I'm hearing it more and more often, and I'm seeing a lot of articles out there of women with endometriosis and cervical cancer and all of these women issues that automatically default to hysterectomies. Now, I want to shout out to hystersisters.com. No, they're not paying me for saying that. I just love the community. I was a part of them, and I love the Hyster Sister community, because they have a lot of information in there for women who are thinking about it, who have done it, who are not sure, etc. But let's get back to, and that's hystersisters.com. Again, I ain't getting paid for it. I'm just telling you who it is. Let's talk about this cash cow of the medical industry. Has so many, and for a long time they were talking about C-sections and how women were having C-sections. Now, they were having C-sections because doctors knock and like, oh, there's nothing we can do. A doctor doesn't talk like that. That's just my doctor voice. There's nothing we can do, and it's an emergency, and you're gonna die, or your baby's gonna die and they make it so traumatic. And when you're at that, I can only imagine when you're at that, in your life, and you're in a bed, and you're just like, whatever, take this baby out. I want it to be healthy, and you have no choice, right? You really don't have no choice. You feel like your hands tied. And now some of them really do need C-sections for their medical reasoning. So I'm talking about the women who are having C-sections that don't need it because the medical industry or the doctors are making a cash cow for it. But guess what, primas? The medical industry says, okay, Well, not a lot of women are having babies, or maybe they are, or maybe it's decreased, or maybe this, or maybe that. So how can we make money? We gotta make money, right? So guess what? They say all these women, let's come up with all these research that endometriosis is this and cervical cancer is this and all this stuff, and they make women believe, and I'm going to say this, women under 30, they make them believe, or again, when you're not educated or in certain things, you're going to just default to I trust, right? And so if you haven't read my article, I'm really open, and I probably add a little too much TMI in there, but guess what? I'm keeping it real. So at the age of 28, I had a hysterectomy. Yeah. And it started off with that little story, of endometriosis. That's the story that it started off with. And then it started off with a whole bunch of things. But guess what? It doesn't matter what the other things were, and it doesn't matter what the details were. The worth of it is options. Because I believe that there are women that might need a hysterectomy because that is it. Yeah, okay, no problem. But giving a woman options, giving a woman knowledge, giving them, the decisions to make, and being educated in decision, giving them information, and really being an advocate for the woman when they're not knowing. And this is why I tell you, if you're listening to my podcast, hello for the first time. If you're not, if you are, women, look at yourselves and women around you. I used to walk around talking to all my friends about, like, do you know how to do self-breast exams? Do you know, you have a daughter, teach her that. No matter what age you are, touch yourself, girl, in the shower and check yourself. Understand what it is, right? And I always said that, and now I'm talking about the hysterectomy, and I wrote this article in Medium because I felt like we need to talk about it. I feel like we need to have a conversation like it's 1995. Is it a cash cow? So rewind, mind you, rewind VCR, to when I was 28 years old, and I'm not 28, but I'm not giving my age, and I'm literally sitting there like, okay, and panic, and at any moment or situation, you can't think sometimes. I mean, you really can't think, and you trust everyone around you. And at that moment, I literally left which I believe is, my womanhood on there. At the time, I thought that. Now, I talk about in the article how I did go through all these things of depression with it, and not being able to bear, and saying, oh my God, my life is over. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I did that. And there's a lot of women in my Hister Sisters. I'm going to share this episode to them, because they would probably be like, oh my God, because I was always so hush about it. I was so embarrassed to talk about it, when the hot flash hit me in the middle of the day, or I was irritable, or whatever the case is, because I was hot. Irritable in the sense of because I was hot, and all the other things that come with it, and dating, having a hysterectomy, and being having to say at the second, your second, third, maybe I said it in the second date or the first date, because I'm just like, look, I'm just gonna put it all out there. This is who I am. This is my life, because this is now a part of who you are. And I'm challenging you guys. I'm challenging everybody who's listening to this podcast right now. Let's have a conversation about it. I'm actually going to tweet about this today, and it's not that I'm going to make a funk about it, because I don't even know if it's a funk, because if you know me, I'm always like, kumbaya, but I've been reading a lot of things about women just like me that are leaving their womanhood on the surgical table because they don't have options, and then ages later they're wondering, like, wow, I wanted to have children. And it's not even about children, it's about you as a woman. You'll never be that person again. Yeah, there's a great thing, you don't have your Master P every month, checking up on you and rapping on you, but that's not the point. Your life changes in so many different ways because the hormones, they change you. And I challenge women, I challenge you guys to let's talk about this, because I didn't have the choice, and I know there's so many women that do not have a choice. And I was actually reading something, I was reading an article through a blog of a blog, and that's how I end up on these stories about women. And this girl, she was, and this was probably 2 years ago, 2019. So yeah, it was 2 years ago. As she wrote how her doctor was like her doctor was like, no, we got to put you in, we got to get you in, we got to get you in. And she's like, well, are there any other options? Do I have time? Like, I'm young. I think she was 26 years old, and she's pursuing a career in, I think it was sports. Yeah, it was sports, because I remember reading that she said that, it's going to change your body. I mean, everything is going to change your body. The way you gain weight, the way everything changes. Why is this happening? Not only to women that have C-sections when they're having babies, but why are this happening more and more to women? So the girl ended up having to make an emergency, like they said, oh my God, it's life or death. So she wanted to get a second opinion, and they kept telling her, well, her insurance and this, and don't even get me started on insurance companies, right? Because that's another thing for tale for two. Long story short, she had to have the hysterectomy, a full hysterectomy. We're not talking about a little, halfway. No, she gave it all up. No options to save her eggs, no options to do anything. Now, knock on wood and knock on everything, I've had a lot of symptoms, but I've been keeping healthy for the most part. But this young lady has been she has been struggling with so many things, deficiencies of so much in her bones and this and that has to do with the lack of hormones through this hysterectomy. So I guess her body did not do well. She can no longer, do her dream of her being a fitness person, or, like an athlete. Sorry, my words, I think in Spanish. Let me go back to the podcast. Pero, like I was saying, and as I was reading this, I'm like, why did I know you? Like, I felt like, and I wanted to reach towards the computer and be like, I wish I could call you right now. You know what I mean? Like, I wish you knew about Hister Sisters. I wish I knew you 2 years ago. And it's getting more and more women every single day. It's hitting more and more women are having this, and they're experiencing having to, go through medication that they do not need. When they can do things naturally, when they could save their eggs, or they can prolong it and do everything in stages, where they could seek other treatments, and the list goes on, and everybody's so different. So I made this podcast today is to talk about, let's talk about these things. Let's talk about the awareness of this and the cash cow of hysterectomies in the world of women under age of 30. And yes, there's women over 30 as well having these. And there's women now knocking on the door like, take everything out, because they don't want to have no more babies. But it hits home when you experience it, and then when someone who experienced it. And so awareness and knowledge and is all about asking questions, and it's the whole point of Dear God, Are We There Yet? I always talk about, let's keep asking questions, never stop asking questions, never stop saying why, never saying when, never stop. I mean, I have been that kid who played teacher with my bestie, and we were always asking questions, and we were always, kind of defeating the odds, and they told us that we couldn't go to the beach on our bike by ourselves at age, I don't even know, we were young, and we did it. I mean, that sounds like nothing, but nobody could ever say no to us, because we always asked questions. We were always just like 5 steps ahead of people, like just wondering, and when our moments, when we let our guards down, those are the moments that it's hard. Because at that moment, I couldn't. I mean, like, at that moment, they made me sign a paper. And the funny part is, if you know my story, like, I went into surgery to supposedly have half of it done, right? I still wasn't given the options. I went to 3 doctors and never gave me the options. And not that it too occurred to me, because I did ask. They said, oh, yeah, fine. But instead of saying, you know what, let's take precaution, let's save them, let's do this, let's do that, and then we will do the half hysterectomy, and if God forbid something happens, you are safe if we have to do the full. Like, there is no prevention. And more every day, there's no prevention. And many people tell me, well, you can sue and da da da. No, you can't sue, because in the state of Florida you can't sue after a certain time. And for many women, once you sign that sheet, doctors are protected in all their all their ways. But how do you make these decisions, right? When you have no one, how do you know who to trust and where to trust? And my thing is, it's all about continued knowledge. Continue knowledge about what's going on, even if you feel like you don't know if it relates to you, especially if you're a woman. And I've been that type of person sometimes that I've actually not wanted to read about something because I'm like, oh, that's not pertaining to me, whatever. And now as I'm growing older, I'm like, why did I have that crappy attitude about certain things? Because now it pertains to me, and now I'm like, oh my God. Women, men, children, whoever who's listening to this podcast is super important to me because it hit home for me. It hits home for so many women, not only in America, but in other countries. So understand your womanhood, understand your body, ask questions, and don't take no for an answer. Don't take I don't know for an answer. Don't take, well, this is the best for you. Like, go get 100, not literally 100, but get feedback from people in the industry, not in industry. Read and just try to be on top of what you can. And at the end of the day, it's hard. It's really hard.